Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Monday, November 23, 2020. I would like to call to order the regular board meeting of the Othello School District Board of Directors. I would like to begin tonight with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Want to welcome everyone who is either on the Zoom call tonight or watching us on YouTube. Thank you for joining us tonight as we conduct our business. Unfortunately, once again, the disclaimer, hopefully technical difficulties evade us tonight and we have a smooth meeting tonight. Thank you once again for being here. I will entertain a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
I motion that we approve the agenda.
Okay, a motion's been made by Director Prowse to approve the agenda. Can I get a second?
Second that.
Okay, seconded by Director Johnson.
I'm sorry, I came in late. I would like to make an amendment to the current agenda. Is it too late?
Yes, because there's been a motion and a second. So the motion would have to fail. All in favor of approving tonight's agenda, aye. Motion fails. I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I would like to move that we also add to the agenda. I had asked Dr. Hurst to come up with the substitute teacher numbers, how many are needed on a particular day, and how are they accommodating when they don't have the subs, and also our current families that have opted to do the LMS system instead of in person, just so that we know those numbers.
Okay, Director Stevenson, where would you like to have that modification made in the agenda? You want that added to superintendent informational items?
Yes. Yes. So I'm not planning on any action being taken, just so that we have those current numbers and are aware of those.
Okay, so there's been a motion made by Director Stevenson to approve the agenda with the addition of the information request of the superintendent under item B3 under item C2 under superintendent informational items. Can I get a second?
Second.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. All in favor of tonight's approval of the agenda, aye? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Talia, do we have any public comment tonight?
No.
All right, once again, reminding the public, there is an avenue for you to share public comment. It's on the announcements when we put those out on social media. Okay, moving on to item B2, board member discussion. Legislative report, Director Stevenson.
Let me start by unmuting. At our WASDA annual conference, because I'm the legislative rep, I went to a couple of different legislative priority meetings, and I had sent a one-pager to Talia. I'm only wanting to show this for just to share this information, not to make any actions on it, but so that we are all aware that these are the priorities that WASDA, because they have what's the right word? Lobbying committee is going to be specifically pushing with the Senate and the House for our students and for all of WASDA. Can you scroll up so we can see the three big key things, and then they have them broken down. So the three big key things that they want to do is advanced vital programs and services. So that's support for IEP students, preparedness for early childhood and kindergarten programs, especially for, I don't know if Talia, you can mute other, thank you. And strengthen school safety by supporting services that safeguard social and emotional health of students and staff. So that is their 3 big key things underneath advanced vital programs and services. Next is expand access to equitable instruction. So broadband access and infrastructure so that all student needs, and that's a statewide issue. It is not just an Othello thing. And talking to other board members across the state, every district is having that problem, even if they're in a totally urban or metropolitan area or anything like that. Closing the opportunity gaps, changing the prototypical school funding model, because we all, it's just not every school is a typical campus or a typical district. And so we need to change that, change the flexibility for students to be able to graduate on time to give them multiple pathways. That's all of the details under equitable instruction and expanding that. And then the last one is secure staff and district resources. Make sure that all the districts can cover employee salaries. Healthcare is a big topic, and benefits. Keep basic education funding, transportation, and avoid mid-year budget cuts. Protect local ELA and our total ability to control that it's local effort assistance, because that's approved by local voters, that we have total control over that, and that we have the authority to change that. And then offer safe harbor for districts during declared emergencies is the last one that's off of the screen, but hence now. So those are specific legislative priorities. I would actually like for our board to meet with and invite our local legislators, Senator Schessler, Representative Mary Dye, and Joe Schmick, and have a conversation with them by Zoom and share this, whether it's all 5 of us and we have it be an open public meeting, but it's just us that discusses it with them, or 1 or 2 of us. It sounds like many districts do that, and I think that we need to be a lot more and just be open about, here's some issues that we're having, and these are the problems that we're having. Please reach out to us if you have any questions, or you're not quite sure what to vote, or those kinds of things. So I wanted to see about you guys' ideas and thoughts on meeting with our representatives.
I absolutely think that should happen. Yes, I'm in.
I agree. It's always a good thing to speak to our local politicians about the issues, especially those that pertain to education.
Okay.
So is that you volunteering, Jen, to try to coordinate that?
Of course, but Sharon and Ken, I understand depending upon schedules, but we definitely want to. So Sharon.
I completely agree. They're our voice in Olympia, and that's where we need a lot of advocacy in Olympia sometimes. And definitely, I believe we need to reach out to them.
Yes, I agree. And whoops, there goes my internet.
We can still hear you.
Okay. I agree. And I think sometimes we don't know them personally enough to know their views. You only see on the social media what they're saying. So that would be great. Finding the time would be really good. If you have a figure it out, let us know.
Right. Okay. I think what I'll do is I'll email all 3 of them and ask them for some times. Can
I make a request, Jen? Can it be
yes,
after
yes.
the first of the year?
After first of the year?
Yeah.
I can definitely ask for that, but session starts in like a week or 2 after first of the year. I would like to it in December if possible. I know that that's a crazy month. I know. But it would be, so we're not traveling. It would be like hopefully from the comforts of our home or something, or office.
Okay.
So at least I'd like to ask for some possible times, and then I can come back to all of you and we can figure it out from there. I mean, it'd be great if all 5 of us could. We'll just have to see what happens. So
Definitely know once session starts, it's going to be hard to get the 3 of them together at one time to meet with them.
right, I think it starts the 14th. I'm not positive. That's just a number that was sticking out in my mind. So January 14th. Anyways, we need to, I think we need to get on it now. So, okay.
All right. Is that it for your ledge report?
Um,
All right, no, thank you. Again, let's keep ourselves accountable. Let's make sure we're our board self-assessments after these meetings, keeping true to the commitments that we have made as a board to rate ourselves. WASDA annual conference recap. I know I'm gonna open it up to anybody who was able to attend any of the sessions, if they have any comments or ideas they would like to share about the WASDA conference.
I'll go first. I was waiting for a moment. I got in a few different sessions, and I know that we can get into sessions until there was a bunch of equity things that I went to that was really interesting to hear about what other groups had done or suggestions and things like that. Some great brainstorming things that I would like to have a conversation sometime with the district on how we can, what we can do, and not so that we're not duplicating what's already been done, but we can keep moving forward and having, like, I love the idea of like the community involved and students involved and staff involved and all of that stuff. On how to do that right now, I don't know, because I think a lot of this was done before, but or maybe waiting until late spring or summer. But in order to really make it be, I think, what we want it to be, I think we need to have a lot of open and sometimes difficult conversations and discussions. There was a board member that I listened to he's in King County, but I can't remember the name of his district now. That they said they do a ton of PD for the board, that they do 3 trainings a year. I know that sounds like a lot, but trainings could be an hour long. Trainings could be weekend long. We can make them be whatever we want to be. And I think that for the most part, we're still a very young board. And I think that we all would be happy. Maybe I'm just hearing things, but I think that we've all said that we're interested in trainings, and we keep postponing that because we want to do it in person. But I think maybe we just say, let's start this one or this one. Let's just plan on doing it digitally and remote. There's lots and lots of different options out there. Many of them are free. Many of them are paid. I really think that we need to explore that. And then I know that we're talking about the retreat a little bit later, but this district also does 2 board retreats a year. And if we consistently planned on one retreat being just the board and the superintendent, and one retreat being like the retreat that we're discussing now, doing one with the principals and executive team and the board, so that we're more unified or can understand each other's perspective better and those kinds of things. and all kinds of, I mean, there was, I took so many notes, so many awesome things that I just came back ready to jump in and be better and do better and all kinds of things. So I'm excited to go back and look at a lot more things and watch a lot more sessions.
I thought it was July of 2021, Jen. Those are available. Maybe I saw
Yes,
that.
what did I
incorrect.
say?
You said January.
I'm sorry, July. You're right.
Yeah, no. I was able to get on, I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday, anyway, to the guitar guy, Mike Rayburn, and his the general session, the opening session on the what if. As you say, Jen, you listen to these things, you get inspired. In my particular case, I think the whole where we're at with this pandemic and our present situation was a little bit of a deterrent to trying to get fully engaged. Nonetheless, the information provided at at this conference was immaculate. I went to I downloaded the PowerPoints to 4 of them, and I'm looking at them on the other screen over here. I did go to an equity one that I thought was going to be more equity as far as curriculum offerings, things of that nature. It was more a racial equity thing, but it was very, very insightful, and in one way or another, it segues into the educational aspect of equity. So I was glad that I sat through that. I was a little, I don't know what the word is. I actually listened to one leading the way as the board chair. That was very informative as well. Maybe a little late, but I don't know. Anyway, great sessions. And those of us, if we weren't able to attend, I'm like you, Jen, there's so many that I bookmarked that I know I'll go back and I'm going to listen or see the PowerPoints, read them off and stuff, because they're very informative. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, I also sat through one that was a district that had four suicides in a 9-month period. It was our wake up call and response. That was a tough one to get through. It was very emotional from the student reps giving their perceptions of how the school handled it, what was made available to them and everything else. And I was able to ask a young man, hey, I just listened to this, and this is, I want to say it was Riverview, I'm not sure. Is this stuff going on in Othello? This is a young man who's currently employed here at my office that was a student at DOHS, and he says, Mr. Garza, he says, yes, it is. And it broke my heart to find out that intentions of suicide, I guess, are actually going through some of our students' minds. And that just, it broke my heart to hear that. And I pray to God that we don't have to go through that, and that some of the decisions we're making don't contribute to those things, and that we can be the bridge to reaching out to these kids and trying to make their educational lives better. I'm sorry for getting emotional, guys, but it was a very, very emotional session. But no, WASDA, as always, they didn't disappoint, even though the format was different. And there is, guys, I encourage you all to look it up. There's most of these, if not all of them, had handouts, and those are there for you to download and use it at any time. So I encourage you, those that didn't or weren't able to go ahead and look into that. Anyone else?
I also thought it was great. And anytime I am the same as you and Jen, in that last year I came home feeling ready to conquer the world, and the format was different this year. And so, but I still walked away with that same feeling. And I'm looking forward to, I wrote down the names of the 2 that you mentioned, Mike, and I'm going to definitely look them up. I liked the 3 ships: relationships, leadership, and partnership. That was probably one of my favorites. And anyway, so I'm looking forward to having access. That is one positive thing of having it be in this forum, is that we have access to these talks and right at our fingertips on our phones, and can listen to them whenever we're like, instead of listening to a podcast. So I'm looking forward to that.
I hate to revert to this, but I pulled up the one presentation or the one handout. And I don't mean this as a sour note or anything, but in the Riverview School District, 18% of 8th graders, 18% of 10th graders, and 18% of 12th graders reported making a suicide plan. Let's not become a statistic, guys. Let's do everything we can as a district to make counseling available, whatever we got to do. So we never have to present something like this at a conference.
Mike, did they contribute to schools being out because of COVID, or is that pre-pandemic?
It was pre-pandemic, Ken. It was pre-pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. I don't recall hearing the pandemic being utilized, but to me, it was a tearjerker when like I said, I asked the young man who's helping me out right now, and he's that exists here in Othello, Mr. Garza. And I was like, wow, I need to open my ears a little more or sharpen my ears and try to do something about this.
Yeah, that's why it's more important than ever, especially now when we don't have that one-on-one contact with teacher and student sometimes to help recognize them or get the help. So this is any more important time than ever to try to recognize those.
No, and I think irrelevant of our teaching structure, I think it's important that we interact with students and try to expose some of that if it is up. All right, like I said, and I realize busy time of the year and tough to get away from work and things of that nature, but I'm glad some of us, or most of us, because I know Sharon, you and I had a conversation, and you had just gotten off of one, and I was telling you the one I was going to, so I know you as well participated. So that was awesome that we were able to do that.
I think, Mike, the
go on.
opening one is really good for everyone to listen to, the Teacher of the Year. She gave an excellent presentation. And I listened to our superintendent of schools, and I think that's a really big one. And he also said social and emotional is a really big thing we need to look at. So.
Yes.
Sharon, I really want to hear about you did a bunch of the financial ones, didn't you?
I had a really big internet problem, so they wrote me back, and so I'm going to try to re-listen to part of them. I did get parts, and then I cut off. So.
Oh, that's so bad. I'm sorry.
No, and
well, good.
So that they were the ones that everything I listened to was interesting.
Right. And another one that is that was by freak chance I went to last year, and every year I'm going to go to this one, is Hot Topics with Tim Garchow and Chris Reichdahl. I don't know if Sharon, that's the one you were talking about, from the state superintendent and the president of WASDA. Amazing. Every time they answer questions, they talk about stuff across the state. It's always, if you guys can watch that one or listen to it, I mean, it was on a Zoom and they recorded it. It was every year. It's awesome.
Awesome. Moving on, the board retreat. Leah, I might have to have you interject here, or Chris. I think from the email that was sent to us, we are still trying to have this on the 3rd in some way, shape, or form.
I was just sharing, talking with OAA. There's certainly a big interest in continuing with the board retreat in some fashion, and we understand the governor's proclamation precludes us from really coming in person. However, in talking with Paul, there was some exceptions that he forwarded to me that I forwarded to the board as well. As far as just being able to meet in person, and there was this concept of breakout rooms that was presented to the board. Then also there was this option of an executive session, and then Paul shared with us how that would meet the criteria if the OAA and executive team wanted to still meet with the board in an executive session, that is possible. But I would just share that there's certainly a interest in executive team and OAA meeting with the board for a board retreat for December the 3rd. So we placed that on the item for the board to discuss and consider.
So are we, I know I blocked out my calendar for the 3rd.
Are we speaking of the evening?
We had allocated the morning to the afternoon from 8 to 4:30, but we don't think that it will go that long. It'll probably be from 9 to 3.
I have it on my calendar, but I had forgotten.
Yes, and I had it on the calendar, unfortunately, Mike, because of other situations with another organization that I'm very involved with, that I won't be able to make it that day because of I have to meet with that organization where I am their current chairman of that, and we have some matters that we have to take care of on the 3rd. So I won't be able to make it that day.
I think Talia had some extra information for the board to consider regarding that. Talia, can you chime in, please?
Yeah, so depending on whether the board wants to meet with the association and the executive cabinet in person, that's why that we have the two options that Paul gave us. So the first option would be an executive session, but that would have to be via Zoom because there would be a quorum. So it would have to be via Zoom. We would not be able to meet in person. Now, if the board and the association would like to meet in person, then that's when he suggested the breakout rooms. But the breakout rooms, there would be no more than 2 board members per room or 1 board member per room, depending on how you decide. So that way we do not violate OPMA. And then also just so that way we take in consideration the governor's proclamation, at any time we wouldn't be able to have more than 5 people in the room. So those are the 2 options that they gave us.
Both of those options are terrible.
I agree. Can we wait until, can we put it on our agenda for the meeting on the 7th? Because that is the date that the governor has extended his executive order until. And yeah, I think he's going to extend it again, but maybe we'll come up with some new idea.
I think that's fine. I just want to communicate to the board that there was certainly a sense of urgency coming from OAA regarding this. So if we're going to make that decision until after the governor's proclamation and see what happens with that, then if maybe the next board meeting we can consider our next steps, that would be great.
Lindsay, weren't you leaving town or something?
Yes. But I really want to meet in person, only because sometimes my sense of humor doesn't play well on Zoom. So I think it would just be much more fun in person. But I'll do whatever the majority wants to do. I would just prefer to meet in person. It's just so much better for relationships, I think, to be in a room with somebody. But I do know that urgency is an issue. So I guess you tell me. I have the 3rd blocked out on my calendar and was planning to be there with my dancing shoes on. But if we can wait and do it in person, I would love that. Even the breakout rooms would be better for me than online. But I would prefer if we could all be in a room together.
That's what I absolutely prefer, is if we could be in the room together. If we had to, I could do the breakout rooms with 2 board members at a time. If that's what's left to us, or if it looks like we're not going to be able to get together for quite a while.
What I can do, Mike, I can, I know David's on the line, but probably appropriate for me to meet with David and Justin and just kind of get their thoughts, and I can just report back to the board.
Very good. I was gonna suggest that you get a conversation going with the other side and or the other folks.
Sharon,
I have
Sharon,
it.
what did you want to say?
No, I have it opened. I saved the 3rd, but I would love to have it be where we can be in person. So I understand the urgency also, so I'm willing to work with anybody. However,
So maybe we should come up with a couple of dates. If Ken can't do the 3rd now, can we at least like say, here's a couple of dates that do work during the day and have that be our backup plan where no more than 5 and less than 2 board members at a time? Lindsay, when do you leave?
December 5th. I'm available the 21st.
Mike?
So, Lindsay,
Yes.
are you doing
Yes.
the board meeting on the 7th and the 20? What's the other board meeting by Zoom?
The 20th.
You know, I could do the 3rd, but I just would not be able to attend in the afternoon because my meeting is scheduled for after 1 o'clock with the other organization. So I could do the morning on the 3rd.
I think we go with the 3rd.
If that's the case, let's try to do as much as we can of those breakouts. I mean, you might want to get a hold of Rich, Chris McBride.
Okay.
And if he can tailor the program to get as much as we can, and we start on time at 8 o'clock, and you would be available till noon at least, Ken?
Yes.
Let's try to condense the agenda as much as we can, Chris,
Okay.
in those 4 hours, and look at it and let us know, hey, this is what we can do, or let's at least get that much of the retreat out of the way, even if we have to have a follow-up session at a later date. What do y'all think about that?
That works for me.
Is it okay, Mike, if I have David weigh in? I think he can add
Sure.
something. David?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hurst. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm speaking on behalf of OAA here, and we're not interested in waiting. This feels like a delay tactic, so we don't actually have to meet, and we're interested in moving forward and actually meeting. We've proposed this would be the 3rd date that you guys have rejected, so we're not interested in putting this off anymore. And if you are, then we're going to have to regroup and decide if we still want to continue discussing it.
I think we move forward with the 3rd.
I think we have the 3rd as a date, Chris. Like I said, if you could reach out to Paul or to Mr. McBride and let us know what the agenda is going to look like, and we'll go from there. And I gotta, this is not we want to meet. We want to meet. This is not a move of any kind. The fact we want it in person is just one of those where I think it's going to be an emotional meeting where we need to have our, we will do this on the 3rd in some way, shape, or form.
Got it. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Moving on to item B3. Are either of the student reps with us tonight?
Yeah, I'm here.
The floor is yours if you got something to say.
Okay. So Lauren wasn't able to make it tonight, but she shared her report with me, and she just wanted to say the our leadership team at the high school met together on Friday, I think on Zoom, she said, and they have made some plans to get more student involvement online. I think she said something about some dress-up days. And then as for my report, I just wanted to share the preschool is getting ready to like move into their offices and stuff. They're almost done with their things. Thank you.
No, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item C1. I will entertain a motion to approve tonight's required approvals.
I have a couple of questions before we go there. So let's start with AP, accounts payable. Ednetics for $94,000. I know we pay them pretty much every month, but this was just a really large amount. And so I wanted to see if we could get a breakdown.
Sure, Jen. It is a large amount this month, but 32,000 of it is for the light. We buy that service for tracking all of the activity that's on each computer, and that's $32,000. Then the monthly phone charges are $13,000. They provide a voice service. And then there is another $3,000 for cradles that boost the internet signal for the school buses. And then the $44,000 is for their technical support. So they maintain the backbone, the technical side of the backbone for the district.
Okay. All right.
So, is this all contributed towards because of COVID and what we're going through?
Well, I would say for the school buses, yes. We would not normally be boosting an internet signal off of the buses, but we're always going to monitor student activity on computers, and we're always going to need the backbone service for the networking for the district.
Okay, thank you.
And then presence learning for 10,000.
That's school psychologist.
Okay. Sandbox marketing for 8,000.
So that was the purchase of desk guards for the student desks, and they're made to fit the desks, the lab tables, and the multi-purpose room tables.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that for every school or just SPED or?
I would say that I don't have the exact answer to that question, other than I'm thinking it's at a school, elementary schools. I have the list here. Let me double check.
Chris, while Becky is looking that up, I see another Stevens Clay.
Absolutely.
Can you do a breakdown of that 47,000 and how many months is this one and some of those details?
Absolutely. Can you bring that up, Talia, please? So if everyone could see that, this bill is broken down into 2 months, month of September, month of October. You can see the majority of the issue was around the arbitration process. We can't really go into that, but just to let you know, that's a number of hours. Then we had some old PMA issues that we had to work out with Paul, some public records and some bargaining issues for a total of 150.7 hours. So that first bill, we explained to the board in closed session how that arbitration process works. And even though that was resolved, there's a lot of lead up to that. So that was explained by Paul. So that's why you see that big amount, 37,000. If you could scroll down a little bit, For October, you could see the bill is certainly significantly reduced. For the month of October, there was still some follow-up for arbitration and just a few other issues that required us to work with Paul. So you can see the two combined months totaled up to $47,628.
Thank you for getting the details on that one.
Absolutely.
So that is for Wahidas.
Okay, the 8,000 for sandbox for the screens was for Wahidas.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for those details. That's all the AP questions I have. Does anyone else have AP? I don't want to jump over anyone's. Anyone else does. So there's also a surplus property resolution. Can you bring that up? I have a few questions. So I know that in the information on this, it says that this is every 4 years. And so I haven't done this one before. I think Mike's the only board member that's been here for one of these. So there's a lot of items that are considered of no value, and there are a few items that are considered of value. Can you tell us, if we were to approve this, then what happens next with both the items of no value and then the items of value? What happens to them?
Sure. So we met with Orland. Cherie and I met with Orland and went through the list of things that are on this resolution. And basically everything on here is either broke, past its life, has zero value. All of those items will go really to either recycling or to the dump. And then the walk-off mats, Orland expressed that they truly don't have a lot of value, but we attached the $10 value to them. We will advertise them to other public schools. And if there are no takers, then after 30 days, we'll run a public notice making them available. And then if there are any takers, we'll surplus them, and they'll be able to bid on them, provide a bid, and if people do and they're successful, they'll take their money and give them the mats.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I mean, we've surplused actual land before, and I kind of know that process. I just didn't know what happens here.
Yeah,
Okay.
This is so much different because, like with land, you're going to have appraisals and all of those other legal requirements. But really, school districts have a tendency to hold on to stuff that just fill up garages or storerooms, and Orland has a great desire to clear this stuff out.
Jen, and it's going to be pretty similar to the same process that we used when we surplused all the computers, I believe a year and a half ago.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be the same process.
I move that we approve the required approvals.
There's been a motion made to approve required approvals. Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve required approvals. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the required approvals, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item C2, superintendent informational items. Before we get there, Chris, I think we have. I'd like you to make an announcement, and let's do some public recognition here, if you would, please.
Absolutely. We just wanted to publicly recognize Scott Swartz. If you noticed in the required approvals, we had him under personnel assignment order for certificated to be the permanent principal of Othello High School. And just want to just share with the public that Scott is certainly someone who has demonstrated that he understands teachers and students. I think we initially shared with the board, and certainly believe this now, that he's very organized. He has positive relationships with the staff and students. He believes in being visible. He listens. He's a good communicator, a thinker. He knows Othello, and we are proud to present him to the board and excited that the board approved him as the permanent principal for Othello High School. So just wanted to recognize and honor Scott Swartz.
Congratulations, Scott, if you're listening. If not, I'm sure you'll listen to us. Good job. All right. Superintendent informational items. Do we have any questions for Chris, or is there an explanation forthcoming, Chris? Or
yeah, I would just say that there was a request from the board last board meeting. I think it came from Director Stevenson, just having a timeline for implementation of the comprehensive sexual education program. So Amy Paris and Jennifer Garza they are working together, and they put together this timeline. And this is just to let the board and the public know, as we stated before. You can see when they're going to advertise to stakeholders, when they're going to review the new curriculum options, also gathering input from stakeholders. So we make sure that we have plenty of opportunities for that to happen. So we just wanted to provide a timeline for the board and for the public.
thank you for that, Chris.
Question on the financial report.
Yep.
If you can go to, once it loads, if you can go to page 8. Of course, the time that it takes forever to load. Mike, this might be one of those technology problems that you refer to.
There, full disclosure at the beginning of the meeting. There you go.
Right. Okay. So page 8 is ASB funds. One more. There we go. So there's a negative revenue. And I just thought that was an interesting thing to have a negative revenue, and wanted to ask about that for the actual.
Let me unmute. So with the kids come in, but this particular situation was a band trip, and the kids had paid the money for their band trip, and in October we refunded their money. And in ASB there are no subsidiary accounts. It's money in and money out. So in the 4,000 series, which would be the band club, there was a reduction in revenue because we gave the money back to the kids.
Okay.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure. All right.
Great question. Great question.
And then I just wanted to see the LMS and in-person data and have that shared with all of us so that we know what the realities are currently.
I know we have Sandra and Pete on, and they contributed to this document. Not sure if either one of them want to point out some areas to the board or to the public.
I don't have any areas to share unless there are any questions from the board.
I pulled up, Sandra, maybe I should not talk over, see if you have anything.
You go ahead with your questions, Jen.
So I just wanted to compare what the K-3 students for LMS going into in-person learning and where we're at now. I know that was part of a discussion at the last board meeting. We're about between each campus is between 10 and 15% now at LMS. So I just wanted to see what had changed. So that's, I mean, it was a large increase for each of them. But when you have those anyways, so. And then can you scroll?
Hold on, Jen, wait, before you move on, I have a question. So are you saying that 43% of Hiawatha students are LMS, or just a 43% increase because 12 students went to LMS?
I didn't make the chart, but yes, it's 43% increase from the original number. So it's only, each campus is anywhere between 10 and 15% of all of their K-3 students. So I pulled up the original chart of how many students are on camp, are registered to each of these schools to compare the 40 students now at Hiawatha compared to how many students Hiawatha has registered for K-3. And it's, most of the campuses look like they're about 12 to 13%. I mean, I didn't actually run numbers, but so I just wanted to see where they were at, because I know it was brought up at our last emergency meeting. So it just, I'm not to like rub it in anybody's faces or anything. I just, it was the I want to see what the realities are of where we're at right now. So that was that's why I asked for the LMS and then the staffing, because we're constantly hearing that staffing is a problem. And so I wanted to see how many shortages we have. It was interesting to see both the teachers and the parapros numbers. And how many numbers are unfilled. Is this in a specific day? Is this for the entire week?
That was on November 19th.
So just for a single day. So just for last Thursday, there were 16 teacher positions that were unfilled and 20 parapros that were unfilled.
Correct.
With some. And so then what happens when those are unfilled? Do they take like a specialist and fill a teacher position for a grade?
Yep.
Do they?
We had exactly that. So we take our instructional coaches, we had our principals in classrooms. And so, yeah, we try to get as creative as we can. We had to pull small groups. So we pull paras. We have paras that have their emergency certs, so we will pull some of those, just doing what we can to make it through the day. So as you'll see there towards the end of the week by Friday, we were really hurting. We had front offices that were not staffed, where it was principal only taking phone calls. And a lot of our staff were quarantined. So I think we were around 72 staff that were quarantined Friday. And then today we're upwards in the 90.
Do you know how many of that 90 are unable to, because I know that we're all digital learning now. How many of the 90 actually need subs because they are unable to work? Do you have even just a guesstimate?
It would definitely be the folks that are COVID positive, or that have symptoms and that are waiting for results. So I don't know, maybe around 40 that are probably too sick to work.
Okay.
And there's a good handful that, they're trying to do as much as they can from home. So we have those folks, trying to do as much as they can.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to really know the realities instead of, I know that Pete did as good as he can at the last meeting by guessing, but I wanted to see the real numbers. So thank you for all of those that assembled this information to know what it is. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Any other questions, Superintendent? Okay, moving on to item D1, assurance of organizational performances. We have EL10, which is our executive limitation, district instructional vision, academic programs, standards and practices. I have reviewed all of these, all those that answered, they are all in compliance. And there is a comment at the end of the survey that states, I would like to see that we continue to involve all necessary people in this area. So can I get a consensus as to, well, it isn't in compliance, that comment remains there?
Not that I want to call somebody out, but my question is, whoever made this comment, are you saying that we're not currently involving? I mean, it does say continue to involve, so I'm taking that to mean we're doing good and keep doing it. I just want to confirm that was the view.
I would like to modify my comment. I would like to commend the district for keeping everybody who needs to be involved in the process. How's that, Jen?
Sorry, Mike. Thank you.
I'm okay. I'm okay with a call out. I got no issue with it. It's just, no, I think we're doing a good job of that, and we continue with that. So, Talia, did you get some modification?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I'm happy with keeping it, with keeping the modified version so that it's a little clearer. I'm good with that. Anyone else?
Sure. That works.
Okay. Moving on to EL10 as well. All of the questions were answered in compliance, and EL13, and there was no comment at the end, so this will be recorded as in compliance. And moving on to item D2, board self-assessment, self-monitoring, GP11 as well. Every question answered in compliance, and let's continue to do our best. Call me out, Jen. Except I don't think that was mine.
Ditto. I agree with whoever's comment.
Can we keep the comment then? I'm seeing some head nods in the affirmative. Okay, the comment will remain as well for GP 11. All right, moving on to E1. I think we decided that this is just going to stay there. It's going to be a roving document that, due to the situation we're in, modifications will be made to it as necessary. This is our annual board calendar. So,
I noticed that today it still has linkage, because originally we had planned on 2 board members per month going and do linkage with assorted groups, but I think that we as a board need to discuss linkage, whether we do it in a workshop or something. I think that we need to redefine, brainstorm, refigure this out. Can we put that on the agenda for the first meeting in January?
yes, and I would recommend that any ideas that we can bring to the table as to how we modify this or change this, amend it. By then, I think we'll be Zoom experts, unfortunately, or very good at it. But no, definitely something that we need to fine tune. So, Talia, if you'll notate that for the first board meeting in January to rehash this discussion on community linkage on the board agenda, on the annual board agenda.
I do.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We will now, the board of directors will recess into an executive session for 30 minutes to receive and evaluate complaints of charges brought against a public office or employee. We want to thank everyone who has been on this Zoom call or via YouTube tonight. Thank you very much. We will recess for 2 minutes, and board, we will see you at our other invite. Thank you. Good night.